Deepak Ramapriyan.
Hey, I haven't heard that full name in a while.
Hey, you gotta check it out.
out.
Yeah, I just got the new neon sign. Dude,
Nice.
so you're the first guest with the new set.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
Well, it looks beautiful.
okay.
I wouldn't know the difference. It looks bright and perfect.
Awesome. So I've been wanting to talk to you for a minute. I've seen you perform at a Lightning in a Bottle. You're an amazing musician. You describe on your website your music as arena rock. I see there's a lot of influences. You play the violin, you play the guitar, you're an amazing singer. So tell me about let's go with your music, because there's also a spiritual component to your music, and you definitely incorporate a lot of that influence in it. So
Yeah.
tell me about that path.
Yeah, I mean, I think my background grew up with Indian parents with a lot of background surrounded by music. My parents were very musical, even though they're scientists and all that. So I had a lot of background growing up with a lot of the left brain and the right brain balance. But I also was taught violin when I was very young, when I was age 5, 6 years old, with classical Western. So it was a blend of Eastern and Western. But my rebellious ADD nature had me kind of not doing as well with the structure, and just sort of becoming more of a street violinist, street musician, freestyling, taught myself guitar, piano, bass, drum, sort of self-taught pretty much from there, and just play by feel and by ear.
Now, I've seen in previous interviews that you said that you studied pre-law and pre-med?
Yeah, I went to college, University of Maryland College Park, and studied neurobiology, physiology, and criminology, criminal justice. Then I went off to do finance, got my series licenses and everything, and then I dropped it all to be an artist.
Wait, finance, law, and medicine. Is it possible to do all three?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a student of life, so even now I'm studying new things that don't have degrees for. I feel like at this point it's not really about the degree, it's about the knowledge. You know, you can know things and not have a degree. I've studied everything from politics to history to finance to health and wellness to spirituality, and it's not, I'm not credentialed in it, but I can speak about it just as well as anybody.
Well, what was the spark that made you want to chase music instead of these, these paths that I'm sure a good Indian family would have rather you'd follow?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was following the path of an Indian family to be either a doctor, a lawyer, a computer scientist, or an engineer. But while I was in college, I was singing, performing in an a cappella group called The Generics, really feeling the energy of the crowd, and also inspired growing up by Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, David Bowie, big figures that have more influence on the population through art and music. And I saw, as a person who's passionate about humanity, like my, teamhumanity.me is one of my sites, which is about bringing people together and creating unity. And I just saw that musicians have this power to do that. I mean, I could save people's lives being a doctor, or, help people with law and help people on a civil level, but I feel like I can influence the world by reaching, music, which is a bridge. It bridges people. It bridges the divide. It's a universal language. And then I can talk about all these political things and medical things and health and wellness and open schools and breathing and meditation, but using music as the avenue to get to the people.
Now, most people would know you, especially like the group that I hang out with and the community that I hang out with is a lot of burners. By the way, you're not a Burning Man this week.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I made a choice to to take a break this year, work on my new solo album, write these impact-based songs, and say no. It's a very hard no. I have real FOMO.
Well, no, because I've done Burning Man 3 times, and then my friends, I think you know Stefan.
Very well,
He's there the 11th year in a row.
So many friends.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's like, it's just not calling me. Maybe if I find a partner that wants to go experience it, I'll go with them.
Sure.
But for now, it's like, just like ayahuasca, it's all about like integration. What I got out of Burning Man, let me put it into my real life. So I don't need to be there, but I'll be looking at the Instagrams and watching the pictures. But most people that I know would know you from that kind of community and that kind of scene, right?
Sure,
As a musician, and a lot of your music, is kind of that groovy kind of stuff. But before we get into your anti-establishment streaks,
Sure.
you did work for Disney.
I'm in a lot of scenes, man.
Yeah.
I've been in the rock and roll scene, the yoga scene, the spiritual music scene, the burner scene, hip hop scene. I'm just I feel like I resonate with a lot of different parts of life. So Burning Man's just one piece. I feel like Burning Man also includes a lot of different aspects of life. There's a lot of spirituality there. There's a lot of hedonism on one end, and then there's a lot of like healthiness on the other end. And I resonate more with the health and wellness and self-empowerment side of things. And you can find whatever you want there, but there's every type of music. I've gone there and played live music. I've done singer-songwriter music at Burning Man. I've done electronic music. So it's kind of a cool place to take all of my different passions of multifaceted sort of passion and put them into one event, which is why I like Burning Man.
Yeah, you are definitely a Renaissance man. There is no genre or even field of thought that you're unfamiliar with, and I like that about you, because I'm also one of these people that's interested and curious. But getting back to the Disney, you worked on
Sure.
this cartoon Mira the Detective?
Yeah,
What was it?
Mira Royal Detective.
Okay.
And this is special because it brought out the Indian culture. And it's the first time Disney's really ever done that. And they allowed me to be a proper consultant to bridge the East and the West, to bring in the true cultural, authentic aspects of India with the music. And I had the free reign to bring in and hire the right type of musicians, people from Mumbai and India that I hired remotely to play certain instruments, local musicians in the US that I had play authentic sitar and bansuri flute. And they really brought out, I think, the Indian culture in a beautiful way, celebrating holidays like Diwali and Holi on an animated series. So I felt like it was an aspect for me, or an opportunity for me to really shine and do my music thing, which is production, but also culturally, bring my authentic self to life.
Yeah, and listen, I'm a sucker for like a catchy kids jingle.
Sure.
What was the main a song? It's Mira the.
Yeah.
How does
Let's
it go?
hear it for Mira, Royal Detective.
Detective.
Mira, 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 Mira. Hey, and it's really fun.
And the guys in the back, you know that I'm a fan of this kind of stuff, dude. I come up with like silly little songs all the time. Like I have my friend Isabella Mico. I don't know if you've met her. I came up with this song for her. It goes, "Hola Isabella, cha 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 cha. Hola Isabella,
Nice.
que Mico," because her last name is Mico, and it's so stupid, but we just sing it, and it gets and it's stuck in her head. So I love little songs like that.
But that's the inner child, and I think that's a part of my passion. Again, we're talking about all these things about being Renaissance, this and that. Like I like to just think of myself as being a child, like an innocent child, a baby who has curiosity and open wide eyes like a baby to just suck in the world like a sponge, which is why I love doing everything. When we talked about pre-med, pre-law, but it's not from a place of like, oh, I want to be the top. It's more like I'm just hungry, and same thing, like being a kid with the jingle you just sang. It's like if we're just free and not thinking about, what people are going to say or judging us and focused on just being our free inner child, I think we can have a lot more fun. And that's where creation, I think the seed of creation comes from being a child. The inventors, the Elon Musk, those people are being a child, and people can judge them, but they don't care because they're just like, if you're a child, you're not caring about what people are thinking anyway.
Yeah.
And I think you can create and invent and write and connect and be a much more loving and happy person by just embracing being a child.
Absolutely. Now, circling back to the Indian influence, because when I was a kid, if you would have told me that Indian culture and Indian spirituality would become a very, very major part of my path, I would have been like, Hinduism, isn't that just like they believe in a bunch of gods? And I think that when I started getting on this spiritual path and I started doing ayahuasca and coming, because I was raised Catholic and I went to Catholic school and I was very rebellious against it, right? I'm actually coming back to it now that I have a broader spiritual understanding. Part of that was indigenous cultures and some of these religions that are thought of as, pagan or whatever, occult, and there's some of that. But then Hinduism is what really gravitated towards me, or me gravitated towards it when I started to understand it. Understand Hindus believe in one Godhead that breaks down into the creator, the maintainer, the destroyer, and then all the deities are really avatars of these facets of God. And and the understanding of Hinduism in line with science as well. Like Thomas Edison, when Hinduism first started to make its way to the United States in the late 1800s through theosophy, and I don't know if you know, are familiar with theosophy. It has its light and its dark as well.
Big time.
I actually have. So the Aurora Boreas from Theosophy,
Flower of Life,
and Flower of Life. So when I started to, what they talked about, their understanding of vibration and energy is actually in line with physics.
Yes.
And that really resonated to me. So can you talk about the influence that your amazing ancient culture, probably some of the oldest religions on earth, what that was like for you as a kid? Were you kind of like a Catholic school kid? Did you rebel against some of it, or were you open to it from the get-go?
Yeah, I think as a typical kid, there was a bit of rebellion, just because, again, I think the healthiness of a kid is questioning anything,
right?
Even questioning what you're being taught as a kid, which allows you to then discover it and then reapproach it yourself later. So I think for me, as a kid, I was just blessed to have parents that were very committed to teaching the way that we were all taught, learning the mantras, learning the language Sanskrit. I can read and write in Sanskrit. My dad's a Sanskrit scholar and all that. And there's mantras that we learn that we don't realize, because a lot of it's, the mind wants to question what things mean, but a lot of stuff is beyond the mind. It's in the subconscious. And you can chant mantras, not even understand what they mean, but still get the healing benefits. And I think that's what's important. So learning things like the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhurbhuva Svaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Whether I knew it or not, there's a feeling happening, and people might even be able to listen to this now and get a feeling and not know what it is, but there's actually a spell being cast of balance between right brain and left brain, logic and emotion. It's coming from vibration. And like you just said, vibration in physics, as we're vibration, everything's vibration. So if we actually understand resonance, like when a tuning fork is resonating at a frequency and the same frequencies in the room, you can hit one, the other one's going to vibrate too. That's called harmonic resonance. Well, that can be happening with humans. If we're resonating with the same ideas and the same thoughts and the same intentions, we can align. That's what law of attraction's about. And so you start seeing the crossover between physics and metaphysics, where we're actually following the science of vibration and then creating intentions and then being able to create and empower ourselves in our lives. People like Tony Robbins that speak about this, Joe Dispenza, they talk about this. It's the power of language. But that goes back to my ancient roots of Sanskrit, where language is being used in order to manifest and create devotion, peace, wellness, intelligence. And that's what I got out of growing up in my tradition, my Indian tradition of Hinduism, which again roots back tens of thousands, if not potentially millions of years, not knowing what history really is. But it's really encoded with all of the science of life. Ayurveda is a science of life. You know, it includes the diet and the medicine, sleeping habits, different body types. So there's so much depth encapsulated in that culture. So as a child, I grew up not knowing what I was, happening, but as a child, you're absorbing it somewhere in your subconscious. And so as an adult, I got to really appreciate it later. And when I started questioning life, being in self-discovery, understanding spirituality, going, whoa, thank goodness that I grew up with that. And now at least I can share that myself with the world. You know, the Beatles brought a lot of awareness to the West. People like Madonna, all these people have had their spiritual journey and awakening somehow, and they just keep finding it in India somehow. So there's something special there.
Well, so Yogananda wrote that book, the Yoga of Jesus, I think. Well, I think one of the first books that contemplated whether Jesus went to India, and it just seems like he did.
Under the name Isha.
Right.
Yeah, in the
because
north.
it seems like his teachings when he came back were much more in line with Hinduism and Buddhism, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Than they were with the Old
And
Testament.
suffering and attachment, those kind of principles of understanding that it's our attachment, our grip to ego and reality that cause suffering. If we let go and realize that how fluid things are, we'll find more peace, we'll find more happiness, and we'll actually be able to navigate this three-dimensional world more efficiently anyway. So it's a win-win.
Right, and the internal versus just the external.
Right, exactly.
Wow, amazing. And so I think one of the big topics when it comes to yoga is the westernization of it. Is it a bastardization of it, or is it an evolution to something a little broader and more digestible to people that aren't Indian or Hindu? So in you, I see an embodiment of, yes, you're Indian culture, but you're very American. The way you talk.
Born here.
And, so a lot of your personality, I'm sure when you go back to India, you seem very American to Indian people.
100%.
Right. So what do you think about, you want to maintain the integrity and you want to maintain certain traditions and the noble aspect of something, but at the same time you have to let it evolve and let it reach other people, and that means they're gonna appropriate and they're going to add, and they might kind of leave a few things out, and maybe that's for better or worse. So what do you think about the westernization of yogic Vedic spirituality and practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that things are becoming more aware. I think the world is getting smaller. The internet exists. We're more connected. Communication and technology, artificial intelligence is all growing. I think that if things are coming to the West and people get to learn about it and become more aware, I think it's a good thing. And then I think people will be on their own individual journey and their intentions. That, it might be not accurate or not true to its authentic form for some time, but at least they're doing something. And I think it's better than nothing. Like maybe people go to yoga originally because they want to get fit in the West, which is not what yoga is really for. But at least it gets them on the mat.
Well, so I did my first yoga class at 25. I'm from Miami. Miami's not a very yogi place.
Sure.
Lived in South Beach at the time. Right before I came out here, my back was hurting me, and they had the gym I was at had a really cool studio upstairs, and they had a yoga class at 8 o'clock on Mondays. I'm like, let me go for a stretch, because a lot of stretches. I play football. There's a lot of stretches that come from yoga. I mean,
100%.
But the teacher, and was really, she was British, and she dimmed the lights, candles. We chanted Om Namah Shivaya Shanta, the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm chanting here. The bug bit me, and I started bringing friends, and then one thing led to another, and now I'm getting deeper and deeper, and
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like if it gets you on the mat, whatever gets you there, and then it's up to each individual to take it wherever they want to take it. You get into yoga, you might be in these movements for one purpose originally, which is to get in shape or to be fit or whatever it might be. But it's the thing we talked about earlier. Like, you may not understand what the Sanskrit means, but something's going to be transforming inside of you that you're not aware of. When you're doing the yoga, something's transforming inside of that you may not be aware of. When you're doing breathing is one of the biggest things, I think, is like the core of everything on the planet. Whether it's Bruce Lee, martial arts, sports, Roger Federer as a tennis player, or whether you're just working on computers, you're being an accountant. If you're being in your breath, you're being in your present moment. You're releasing yourself. You're being at peace. Well, yoga breathing is one of the main things. And if you get you on the mat for whatever reason, we talked about the bastardization things in the West, I think if you're just breathing more, that's going to help humanity. That's going to reduce stress. And I think people make better decisions when they're not stressed.
Oh, absolutely.
And so why not just like focus on let's reduce stress as team humanity, and then let that be the ripple effect of peace on earth.
That is, whenever I talk about my spiritual path, I go, it started, and the main focus is me calming the fuck down.
And that's it.
Me centering myself, and it's because I'm not being a spaz.
and each individual gets to do that. So hey, again, back to the yoga thing. You get you on the mat. Now you're breathing. You're becoming more calm. You start noticing these things over time. Maybe that'll lead you deeper on the spiritual path. Right. Maybe you will get into the mantras and chanting, or maybe not. That's up to each individual. If the right person or the right teacher is there at the right moment, like you just experienced, that might lead you down a deeper, not darker, a brighter and lighter path.
Sometimes it might take a little pivot to the dark.
It might need to go into the shadow for a second, and that's part of it. And that's what ayahuasca,
right.
Spirituality, even deep breath work, Ananda Mandala, Kriya breathing. I've done a lot of deep Kriya breathing. Darkness comes out.
Right.
You go into the darkness, and then you release, and then you laugh, and you cry, but it frees you up of past trauma, childhood trauma, past life trauma. Breathing and moving and shaking and getting into cathartic somatic type healing, I think, is what could help the entire planet get to a place of peace and less war.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so your music for the most part is enlightening. It's positive. It's ethereal. It's everything that I was talking about, very burner. But you also, I've seen you perform at Hotel Cafe a few weeks ago, and you were like jamming on your violin. It was almost like it could have complemented like Southern rock kind of thing going on.
I've been to Nashville. I played fiddle.
Okay.
A lot of the music I'm doing, we talked about the title earlier, calling it arena rock. I'm working on the name, but it's really like thinking stadium anthems to unify the world.
Yeah.
So some of it might need to be a little bit more ethereal to get everyone into a relaxed space, and then we come hit them hard with some epic sing-along anthem,
right.
like some Coldplay, U2, Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, where everyone's singing together, and that might be the shift. But as a violinist, I like to be a chameleon a little bit and play with whatever kind of, if there's a jazz player, I'll come up and jazz it out. If it's country or fiddle, I'll do that. With my own music, I like to think of the violin as almost like an extension of the human voice. It's got a very emotive quality. It's like I'm singing through it, and I can put it through effects and make it sound like an electric guitar and have it be a unique signature sound to make the music be, different and stand out than other artists out there.
No, dude, you're a virtuoso. Now, because your music is has this unifying aspect across the board, pretty much everything I've heard you work on. You also have this personality that's coming to the forefront that's very anti-establishment, that's very skeptical of big government, of the official narratives. And when I got to speak to you at that show at Hotel Cafe, I enjoyed the positive vibe that you have, and I find that very important when you're saying something or you're putting a message out there that might be in conflict with the narrative that most people buy, which then makes them kind of want to, reject what you're saying, and then it becomes personal.
Sure.
So at what point in your musical career, in the past several years, we know that the past several years have been, giving you a lot of ample opportunity to like have issues with what's going on. How did you balance? Hey, I'm making music for everybody that's positive and unifying, but at the same time, like I gotta speak some truth that might be uncomfortable to some people. What was that process like?
Yeah, I think it's actually like a lifetime journey, and also in general, I don't consider myself really an anti-person, even though I would say that there's things I'm going to stand up to protect others. But I like to use the language. Again, language is very important to me. That I'm not against the thing, because that creates what you resist persists. I like to focus on what am I creating? What can I do? I can empower people. Hey, instead of all focusing on, let's say, the next election cycle or the next way we're going to outsource our authority to people outside of ourselves, let me focus the conversation on empowering each of us to trust our inner authority, our divine wisdom, and to organize communities and build our own decentralized communities together. So I'm thinking more from a solutions mindset. So I think that's always kind of been my philosophy. I was a Ron Paul guy back in the day. I was really into Austrian business cycle. I was into free markets and seeing that when you allow humans and trust humans to do stuff, it actually ends up working better. I think a lot of our systems are based on not trusting humans. Humans are bad, so we need more regulations and more government. It's based on that, but it's based on scarcity mindset. It's like, we don't trust humans, therefore we need to protect humans from themselves.
Right.
And that's what I think government's based on. I'm more about, hey, I want to come from abundance and trust. I understand that there is a flawedness to being human, but I'd rather have it out there in the open so that we can then help and heal that as a society versus having it protected inside of government where it actually ends up festering, even becoming worse like a cancer. So I feel like less to no government is my vision, not from a place of I'm anti this, but I'm for pro self-empowerment, pro organizing communities, decentralized systems, pro sovereignty, personal health freedom. I'm personally stepping into my own evolution as a person and empowering myself with positive mindsets and thoughts and going, oh, this is working for me. Let me see if I can share and inspire this with others, and one person at a time, lead by example through music, song, conversation, and inspire people to step into their own power. And then from there we can organize. And if we're more organized and have our stuff covered, then we've proven through action that we don't need these bigger systems anymore. But that's obviously a longer game. So I feel like the systems need to be there for those who want to volunteer to be part of the systems. I'm more of a voluntarist. I'm not saying let's end the system. I'm saying, hey, systems are there. Every person is where they are in their journey. Some people might need to be in government systems and want to be governed right now, and I volunteer, but just understand that I don't want to be forced to do things that I don't believe in. So therefore, everyone can be happy. If you want to have government systems and federal agencies do that, cool. If I want to operate outside of that and interface with you, and we can operate from outside the system and with the system, then we can all have we can all win as a society.
No, so I'm interested. So I feel that the time that we're getting into right now is prime for a guy like you. And that a lot of people who might have been on the fence about you because, they heard you maybe criticize some, medical procedure that they were trying to force us to have a few years ago. And then I think they're coming back and they're seeing, well, number one, you're being vindicated in a lot of ways, but also that your energy was positive and you don't have to agree on everything. So I think right now we're getting to a time which is good for someone like you. Now, the past few years, though, I wonder if they were challenging for a guy like you, if maybe there were relationships professionally and personal relationships that were strained because you were vocal about things that we were being pressured not to be vocal about at all.
Sure.
What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because I think because I still approached it from a positive place,
right.
If there were people that were canceling me or avoiding me, I didn't really hear about it. People just sort of naturally just moved away and new people came in. But I've never really gotten into huge debates online, which a lot of people get into because I'm not approaching it from a combative place in the first place. So, I might have the same opinion as someone else, but the way I'm sharing it, I'm doing it in a way that's like, hey, let's stay curious. Let's stay open. I've got questions. What do you think about this? I asked a question the other day on my Facebook just as a curiosity question. Hey, do you trust the FDA? Yes or no? And I'm not saying it from a place of I don't. I'm not making a statement. I'm saying, hey, who does and why? And I wanted to get honest opinions. And I'm not coming here to troll. I'm saying, do you trust them? And if so, why? And if not, then why? And let's have a conversation about it.
What was the reaction?
Most people on my feed happen to say no, and a few people say yes. But I would like to actually open it up to people. I want to hear more yeses. I want to hear from people that do trust them and find out why. Because I think that would be a more interesting conversation. I'm surrounded by most people that don't. And that's already kind of an echo chamber that I want to be in an open conversation with everybody on all sides of the aisle so that we can bridge that divide, have curious conversations, find out why you don't trust something or why you do something. Why are people on this side not trusting Trump? Why are people on this side not trusting Kamala? What's up with the RFK? There's all these different angles, and everyone has a reason they got there, and I think everyone inside is doing it for a good purpose, and there's a bunch of different information that maybe everyone got about different things that led them to their conclusions. I'd like to be in discovery and connect with those people and then have those conversations and either get enlightened by someone else or enlighten someone else, and because I want to keep expanding my perspective and also help other people expand theirs.
Well, what I respect and even more so am inspired by is that you are so upfront and honest about these things, maintaining that positive vibe, because the trap that I fell into, I actually had to pull back. For the past several years, I used to be very politically vocal, right? And I was very liberal. I couldn't sit in front of a Republican while I was starting an argument. And I come from Miami, where there's a lot of Cubans. My grandfather fought in the Bay. My two grandfathers, one fought in the Bay of Pigs against Castro, one fought with Castro. Wow. Until Castro took over and he realized this is not what I fought for, and then he escaped Cuba. So
sure.
I have that background. So so I was very combative. I grew, and it was okay in my household to be combative politically, but still get along afterwards. But when the past few years, I realized other people don't share that. Hey, we can have an argument and we'll be cool about everything else. It's like, if we have a political argument, we're at odds across the board. So I pulled back, but I realized I had to work on me maintaining a positive air, even when I'm being confrontational or challenging someone or being challenged by someone, right? that's an aspect about you that I think is something that I could learn from, and a lot of people could learn from. And so I really respect that. We have a mutual friend, your partner Jennifer Esteban.
Oh, yeah, Jennifer.
Yeah, she was on Pink Cafe here a couple years ago. She's really cool, and I respect the both of you coming out, even though coming out and speaking your mind the past few years, kind of costs you sometimes, in certain people's eyes, friendships, whatever. They start like looking at you differently. But do you feel that it's coming around, that now people are kind of coming back to the two of you and going, hey?
Well, a lot of people are, a lot of people aren't. And again, I'm not coming from really caring about that
Right.
much. I'm just coming from, I'm going to share myself lovingly. And I was using the word positive earlier. I want to not even use the word positive. I'm just being authentic. I'm just being myself, because it's not necessarily always positive. Some things don't come off as positive. If I'm sharing information about, finding out that a friend of mine's wife died in a car accident, but it was labeled as a COVID death, I'm just sharing truth. I'm sharing reality, and that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. A lot of people don't want to believe that something like that could possibly happen because
Right.
they trust the system. I'm saying, hey, this did happen, and I know a lot of people that were vaccine injured, and a lot of their stuff was covered up. And they're not being reported. And so then people from the outside that are not believing this aren't going to necessarily believe it until something happens that's close to them sometimes. But I've seen it. I've been on the front lines of this kind of stuff. And I think for me, it's been about just being honest, being authentic, sharing it all openly, and not really worry about what other people think, and just doing it from a place of knowing that I'm charging it with love and truth, and just leaving it at that, and trusting that the world will align around me as it needs to.
Oh, I feel it's landing around you. That's why I'm happy you came to talk to us.
Sure.
So so reading about you a little bit more, I read that you lost a lot of your stuff in a fire, in one of the Malibu, the Woolsey fire.
The Woolsey fire, 2018.
2018, okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about that process of losing everything and then kind of building your life back up again.
Absolutely. So, I'm a Malibu guy for 10, 11 years. That's where my heart is. I love it there. It has a Native American ancient energy. There's sweat lodges. There's a lot of deep spiritual energy there. So I was living there for years, living on Latigo Canyon, and also over in Montanito area and Malibu Lake. And the Woolsey fire came in 2018. It destroyed a lot of the properties, a lot of about 700 homes or so. And unfortunately, I lost my home in that, my cat, a lot of my belongings, a number of instruments. I was also blessed because my music studio, who was on the same property, on the other side of the property, was not touched. It had smoke damage. A lot of the instruments I had to get fixed up. But overall, they survived. My violin survived. I wasn't even home. So I was on a tour and just on my way back. But as far as the rebuild, I think it was still kind of being in the same place of always channeling gratitude. Like, I felt like the fire, like, what does this mean? I like to ask those questions. Like, what is this for? What can I gain out of this? What's the opportunity? And also not from a spiritual bypass place of everything's all good, it's all meant to be. I'm feeling the sadness. I was crying, but I was also recognizing the macro perspective, which is the spiritual awareness of it, as well as the emotional micro awareness of being in the present moment and going, hey, this is sadness, this is loss, but also this is ascension, this is rebirth, this is the phoenix rising. This is an opportunity for me to now take a look and reset and look at things, assess things that weren't serving me and the things that were, and keep the things that were dope, and then get rid of things that weren't. And so it was an opportunity as well. And it was right around Thanksgiving. It was November 9th, 11/9, which is 9/11 backwards, which is interesting. And that was 2018. It was right before Thanksgiving. So I ended up meditating and sitting in the fire of the ashes for weeks.
Wow.
And I sat there. And I was breathing in the toxins and the poisonous plastics, whatever it was. I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to be the fire. I'm going to take the whole thing in, and I'm going to trust that it's going to come through me. Whatever toxins are like, this is a FEMA site. You can't be here. I was like, I don't care. I went right into my old home, and I sat there, and I meditated, and I ended up having these tears and revelations of what my next mission was on the planet, and then wrote a poem called Thank You Fire, which is a gratitude poem for Thanksgiving, which got published in the Malibu, in a book that's all over Malibu. You can go to Malibu to bookstores. You'll see it's in a local book there called Radical. I think it's called Radical. I don't even know the name of it. It's Radical something. It's about the fire. But a lot of art from local Malibu people got put in there, as well as my poem, and it was also put at City Hall as an art gallery, as people honoring local Malibu fire victims. And it was a way of just transcending this into a healing experience, but also like the community came together. I shared about it online. People were like, hey, come record at our studio. My friends Justin and Dusty have a music studio called Treehouse, where a lot of major, Toto and all these big acts record there. They allowed my band Robot Nature to record there during that because we didn't have a studio. So, people came through, and it really gave me a good connection and feeling of what community can do for each other. And imagine now, if that's just one personal tragedy that happened where people came together, imagine us activating as a society and forming communities to help everyone all over the world with that same mentality and scaling that. I think we have enough resources and love and people to help the entire planet if we just activate.
Absolutely. And coming together and understanding ourselves individually, and then ourselves as a community is a big part of that. And music is a great way to bring that together. Dude, so you also kind of like, you talk the talk, but you walk the walk. So tell me a little bit about, your off the grid kind of expanse in terms of how you live. You grow vegetables, you're a vegan. Tell me a little bit about that lifestyle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, if the goal for me as an artist and even my relationship with politics is about not being in politics, it's about self-empowerment, then the best thing for me to do is learn how to self-empower myself. And that involves spiritually growing, intellectually growing, physically being healthy. And so in terms of health, which is what you were just asking about, I figure, hey, if I know how to grow my own food, it's going to feel good. I know what's going into it. It's going to be a skill that's good to have on this planet. Like, let's say we need to go learn how to do that. It's a good skill to have. I think learning how to do those kind of skills, homesteading, gardening, farming, building things, how to create our own communication systems, radio, those kind of skills are old school skills that a lot of people don't know these days because we're just trusting technology. But at any moment in time, the technology could be snapped, or electric cars could be turned off, phones could be off, internet could be off. So I'm really passionate about learning how to create those things, or being aligned with other people and forming communities that between all of us, our hive mind can be fully sovereign and create our own internet. We're right now, Jennifer and I are talking to people that have figured out ways to create internet anywhere where we can actually create it on Bitcoin blockchain nodes, and if everyone has enough of them, we can create our own internet. No one can control it. It's unhackable.
Wow.
And it's, there's stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been meaning to go. Mind Nexus is the group that you guys formed.
Mindshare.nexus is one of Jennifer's several companies. She's just a badass CEO female that I'm honored to be to call my better half.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of them, where she's created a network for Los Angeles entrepreneurs. Awesome. And also expanding that to other cities where people like us can gather and form ideas and form partnerships.
Well, look, you're Latino by association. You have an Argentine better half.
I got an Argentine better half.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I look a little bit Latino.
Yeah, no, you definitely
sometimes.
could. Yeah, you like for sure Brazilian.
I'm brown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be. I think this will be out by the time
Pandemic.
you're there. The Independent Convention.
Independent National Convention and Rescue the Republic with like over 200 to 500,000 people in
So
DC.
what is the Independent Convention? Because I am a proud independent since I was 18 years old.
Boom.
I am against not only the two-party system, I'm against political parties. Now, I'm not saying,
Now we're talking.
I wouldn't force somebody not to congregate with people that are like-minded on an issue. That's fine.
Sure.
But to have a party think for you, as opposed to everyone being on their own individual platform, as opposed to every politician having their own individual platform. We're in the information age. Go on their website, their social media, and then they can have their own Rubik's Cube combination of issues. They might be conservative here, they might be liberal there, but we compromise ourselves when we say we're on this team, and we agree with them 65% of the time, and that other 35%, throw it out, compromise. You're just going to have to be with them, even when you don't agree with them, which is what I see with the partisan thinking, right?
Totally.
So tell me about the Independent Convention, how you got involved.
Yeah, so it's formed by Christopher Life. He's been deep in the politics conversations for probably a decade, if not 2 decades. Similar to me, and coming from a different angle, where it's in the last 30 to 40 years, people that identify of independence has gone up exponentially. We're talking from 20%, 25, now we're over 51%.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that means that a lot of people don't realize the power of the majority is actually not in the duopoly. It's actually outside of that. But most people don't realize that. Everyone thinks, oh, that's all we got. Everyone's been used to having this and that, and not realizing, oh, there's just the Green Party. They're small. And the Libertarian Party, they're small. And this one's small. And this one's small. And not realizing that if everyone were to coalesce as independents, not from the party standpoint of like, what party are you in, but as an independent individual, and gather us all together in terms of mindsets, in terms of saying, hey, let's organize, there's a lot of power in being over 51%. So I think that's what the Independent National Convention to me represents. Christopher Life really bringing that together. And also, a lot of people are focused on the national election. That's just a centralized thing where people in D.C. are making decisions for people over here. But people don't realize there's 50,000 other seats all over the country, local, state, districts, communities. And if we start organizing around that, that's what affects you actually more in your own area. It affects your schools and your system. So if we organize like, hey, these people in this neighborhood kind of think similarly, let's get someone that we want to empower from our own community to help represent us on that public area for us. And then if you do that on a local level, these people over here might think differently. They might be a little bit more on the other side. Well, they get to have their area the way they want it. And that's, I think, the way the U.S. was originally designed. as a constitutional republic is lots of little mini petri dishes
Yeah.
all over the place, scattered in a local way. And then from there, it kind of goes a little bit higher into counties and then states and then the national thing. But the idea is that it's supposed to be minimal at the top and most of the stuff's supposed to be down here.
Yeah.
And everything's kind of backwards now. Everyone's so focused on the next national election, and then we don't like them, like you just said, 65% or whatever. It's because we're focusing on this one person over there that we barely agree with, instead of someone we might agree with like 95% on in our local area, and everyone having their version of that, and each little area will be slightly different. And if you add that and sum that up, you've got yourselves actually something that's a lot more closer to the way humans operate, which is very more nuanced than the duality or the bipolar way of thinking.
Are you interested in running for office?
I've been asked to many times. I'm focused more on empowering people to step out of that conversation and into self-empowerment and private. You know, I'm more about the private way of thinking, which is individually operating and organized together as involuntary states, which means not even having a state. You know, not even operating with the state. So I would rather not be someone who's running for office, but rather be a thought leader that can influence and help people that gather communities. And in that way, I'm basically doing the same thing, except doing it from a private place where I'm not beholden to a state in the first place. And I can have more of an impact from that angle.
So has anyone ever heard that and said, well, then you're an anarchist?
That's what I would label myself as if I had to. I'm an anarchist or a voluntarist, or there's lots of terms for that. I think the word anarchy has been taken over and co-opted. It means chaos. If you look it up and type it on ChatGPT or Google, what does anarchism mean? It actually just means not having authority over another. And I think that's the most moral thing as humans is not have. I shouldn't have authority over you unless you consent voluntarily with me. Like, hey, if you're going to be my boss, I want to choose you as my boss, and I should have the freedom to leave.
Yeah.
And right now we're caught up in very involuntary agreements and codependent relationships with governments, where if you're required to pay a tax, which means you're being money stolen from you against your permission to then be used against your will for things you don't believe in, like mass murder, aka wars. And I don't want to support that. I don't want to pay for that, so I don't.
Right. Wow. Dude, we could talk forever. It's already been 40 minutes. I'm like, damn, we could go on all day. Is there anything else you want to mention, touring, music, or what have you, before we have you leave us with a little bit of a song?
Yeah, I think the thing we were just talking about was the Independent National Convention. That's this September 17th through 19th, which might be right now. I don't know. Is that...
So, yeah, this would be out by then.
This will be out by then?
Right around that time, yeah.
Before or after, though?
Probably around that week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we've got the Independent... I'll just say the date then. I won't say it. So, yeah, we got the Independent National Convention, which a lot of different people are going to be at. And, again, it's not about any one person or party. It's just about being there for the conversation, inspiring the conversation. RFK will be there, and he's just representing the independent movement, not any one party or anything. He's just there to be a speaker and talk about health and wellness. And I'll be there. I wrote the anthem for the entire event.
Nice.
So I'm the main, basically, kind of glue for the entire event. I wrote the song Together We Rise, and that song is also the closing credits for Plandemic the musical, as well as the anthem for the Independent National Convention, as well as being performed the following week in D.C. at Rescue the Republic, which will be somewhere from 200 to 500,000 people gathering in D.C., including Russell Brand, RFK. Trump's likely going to be there. I'll be one of the main headliners for that as well. And a lot of different people from the freedom movements from all sides of the aisle coming there to celebrate unity and also anti-war and all these different sentiments that people can agree on. So it's pretty massive. September's going to be very massive.
Dude, thank you for being on the podcast today. I really enjoyed it. Do you want to grab your instrument? Is it a guitar? Or what'd you bring?
I got a guitar.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Go for it. Let me see here. Okay. I want to just get something on my... Is Alex here? Alex, do you mind taking a couple pictures with my phone?
This probably be good, like that, I'm thinking. It's early in the morning. Or is it? What time is it?
It's 12:30.
Oh, it's not that early anymore. So this song is called It's Our Time, Together We Rise, and it was written as the anthem for the Independent National Convention, and is now also becoming a unity anthem for a lot of different events, movies and things like that, including Plandemic the Musical. And it was co-written with my musical partner, who's not here right now, Johnny Twilight, so it sounds way more epic with his voice, but I'll do it myself. Rise up from the ashes, rise up from the flames, see through the lies that feed the fires that we create. Come out from the shadows, come out in plain sight. Nothing to lose, it's time to move into the light. Oh, together, united, deny it or fight it, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise up, together we will rise up, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise up, together we will rise up, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Oh, 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 ooh, yeah. Now we're fighting for the lives of our sons and daughters. It's a war we're gonna lose if we divide ourselves apart. Yeah. Oh, it's time to rip the veil that covers everything. The talking heads that wanna make us blind. And when we strike back, shoot love into the skies. Together, united, deny it or fight it, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise up, together we will rise up, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise up, together we will rise up, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. It's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time.
Wow. Deepak, you've been on Check It Out.
Check it out!